I met Liam when we were both 23 at a loud birthday party for a mutual friend in Austin, Texas. That evening I had only planned to stop by and leave early. But everything changed the moment I saw him. Liam wasn't the type of man who would instantly catch my eye. He wasn't loud, didn't push through the crowd, but when our eyes met, I knew I was done for. His gaze, calm yet piercing, felt as if he could see through everything I tried to hide. We crossed paths for the first time at the bar, while I was fumbling with a half-finished cocktail. He stood quietly beside me, pouring himself a glass of whiskey without striking up a conversation. I was the one who spoke first. "Are you bored with this party too?" I asked, half joking. Liam smirked slightly, eyes still on his drink. "Not bored, just haven't found anyone interesting to talk to yet." That answer made me laugh. His quiet confidence, tinged with a hint of challenge, was unlike the bland guys who usually hovered around me at parties like this. We talked about everything. From how awful the live music was that night to the kind of old movies we loved, cities we dreamed of visiting, even a small wish to own a quiet coffee shop in a mountain town someday. The more we talked, the more I found myself drawn to how attentively he listened, how his questions made me pause and think before answering. It wasn't small talk, it was genuine connection. The party dragged on until midnight, but for me, everything else faded into the background. As we were leaving, Liam asked me a simple question. "Scarlett, do you believe in meeting the right person on the very first try?" I didn't answer. I just smiled, though inside I already knew. 3 weeks later, we officially started dating. Liam was the kind of man who brought peace without ever being boring. He worked in interior design, while I was juggling a marketing job for an organic food brand. We weren't the perfect social media couple. No flashy check-ins, no picture-perfect date nights. But those quiet afternoons at old coffee shops or intense debates over a documentary meant everything to me. After a year, we moved in together. No grand gestures, no big declarations. Just a rainy afternoon when I was sorting through a pile of old books and Liam casually said, "Why don't you stop wasting time going back and forth and just stay here for good?" As time passed, I realized Liam was meticulously organized while I was messily intentional. I loved partying. He preferred quiet evenings. I craved trying new things. He always weighed pros and cons before deciding. Yet strangely, we rarely clashed as people expected. I once asked him, "Aren't you tired of having to rein in a wild horse like me?" Liam looked at me, eyes both gentle and steady. "Scarlett, you don't need to be reined in. You need a place to anchor. And I need someone who reminds me to live more." I believed that we balanced each other perfectly. 4 years after we met, Liam knelt down during a simple picnic. No flowers, no candles, just a sandwich I had mercilessly criticized for being too bland. But his question was anything but dull. "Marry me, Scarlett. Don't make me eat flavorless sandwiches alone for the rest of my life." I laughed and I said yes. We spent nearly a year preparing for the wedding. Dress fittings, cake tastings, fiery debates over whether to have an open bar. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple. I used to think so too. But there are things you can never foresee. I remember that evening clearly. It was supposed to be just another ordinary day, if only I hadn't come home earlier than planned. A sudden technical glitch ended my office meeting early. I skipped drinks with friends, stopped by the market to pick up groceries, hoping to surprise Liam with a home-cooked dinner. On my way back, I even smiled, picturing his face when he'd see me voluntarily stepping into the kitchen. But that smile vanished the moment I stepped into the apartment lobby. Right outside our door was a small, deep red gift box, so striking it was impossible to ignore. Attached was a glittery card. "To the best bride last night. Every second was worth it. Love, Madison." Madison. My best friend since college. She was infamous for her party princess nickname. Someone who never knew the meaning of limits. I used to excuse her wildness, telling myself it was just her way of bringing fun to exhausting days. That everyone needed a friend like that. But reading that note now sent a chill down my spine. I brought the box inside, set it on the kitchen counter. I intended to ignore it, yet my palms grew clammy as my eyes kept returning to that word. In the end, I opened it. Inside were the typical bachelorette party trinkets, a cheap plastic tiara, a neon pink sash with bride-to-be printed on it, and a few tacky accessories, all harmless. Until I spotted something tangled in the crumpled silver wrapping paper. A men's tie. Designer brand but wrinkled and faintly scented with a cologne I didn't recognize. My chest tightened. I tried to reassure myself. It's probably a joke. Madison always goes overboard. But then, beneath the sash, a black USB appeared. No box, no label, just a plain device, deliberately left there. I slumped into a chair, my fingers trembling as I plugged it into my laptop. A single file popped up. For Scarlet the Wild Queen. I hesitated for a few seconds before hitting play. The first image was of Madison and a few girlfriends laughing hysterically at some unfamiliar bar. Neon lights flashed, music pounded, their faces glowing with intoxication. I spotted myself in the frame, tiara on my head, cocktail in hand, raising a glass in celebration. I didn't remember this part. At least not so vividly. The video cut quickly. Madison was the one filming, panning the camera as she shouted, "Scarlet, tonight you're the queen. All of Vegas belongs to you." My stomach twisted as I recognized the place. A nightclub in Las Vegas. The trip Madison insisted on organizing to let off steam before the big day, even though I had only wanted a quiet evening. The next scene made my blood run cold. I was on stage, surrounded by shirtless male dancers. One of them wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me close. The crowd roared, glasses raised high. And there I was, Scarlet, someone I barely recognized, laughing loudly, swaying to a provocative rhythm. My grip tightened on the chair, my breathing shallow. But the video didn't stop. The camera followed me as I stepped off the stage, hand in hand with that dancer, then 2 more men joined, all walking with me toward a small door behind the bar. "Scarlet, you're making history! Bride of the year!" Madison's voice echoed, gleeful and biting. Huh? I hastily shut the video, but the images were seared into my mind. Suddenly, the apartment felt suffocating. I shot up, struggling to breathe as if something invisible was squeezing my chest. Was this real? What had I done? Disjointed memories rushed back. I remembered the drinks never stopped after that first glass. Madison always knew how to make everything fun. But I had convinced myself I was in control. That every joke would stop at a harmless line. Clearly, I had been wrong. Then my phone rang, making me jump. Liam's name lit up the screen. I couldn't answer. How could I face him when I couldn't even face myself? I sat in the dark. The laptop still open, yet I didn't dare press play again. I didn't need to. Once was enough to shatter everything I believed in. Outside, night had fully descended. Streetlights cast a pale, cold glow through the window. I could hear my heartbeat, fast and frantic. In that moment I knew. I had pushed everything into a dead end. The next morning I woke earlier than usual. Not because of an alarm, not because of a plan. Simply because I couldn't sleep anymore. Liam was still sound asleep, his breathing steady from the other side of the bed. I hadn't dared to touch last night. I sat silently in the kitchen, the gift box from Madison glaring at me like a scarlet stain. The USB was tucked away in a drawer, but it didn't need to be visible to haunt me. What I needed to confront wasn't Madison, wasn't Liam. It was myself. I left the apartment at 6:15, no bulky luggage, just a small suitcase with a few clothes, my laptop, and an old camera. I didn't leave a note. No explanation, only emptiness. But unlike past arguments, this time, I had no intention of coming back. I drove through a city still half asleep, heading straight for the outskirts, where pine hills and winding trails stretched into quiet valleys. When my phone lit up with a message from Liam, I didn't even glance at it. "Where are you going? Is something wrong?" Short, simple, just like him, the man who always believed things could be fixed with an honest conversation. But this time, no explanation would matter. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to escape. About an hour later, I stopped the car in front of a small cabin by the lake, nearly a 2-hour drive from the city. It was a place I had always dreamed of escaping to whenever life felt overwhelming, but somehow never actually did. Now it was the only place that came to mind. The receptionist looked at me with a mix of curiosity and polite detachment. I excused myself, saying I needed a quiet place to work for a few days, paid for the room up front without even asking about the cancellation policy. As I stepped into the simple wooden room, I collapsed onto the bed covered in crisp white sheets, feeling like the entire world had stayed outside that door. No noise, no watchful eyes, just the echo of my own heartbeat filling the silence. I turned on my phone, unsurprised by the barrage of missed calls from Liam and a few texts from Madison I had no interest in reading. For a moment, my finger hovered over the call icon. Then I pulled back. I knew, with just one answer, everything would spiral back into that familiar loop. Apologies, questions, wounds ripped open before they had a chance to heal, all forced into forgiveness under the name of love. I didn't want forgiveness, not now, maybe never. That afternoon, after wandering aimlessly around the lake, I returned to my room, opened my laptop and pulled out the wedding file. Contracts with the venue, service providers, bridal boutiques. Once an exciting world for me, now just a heavy stack of paper. I made the calls one by one. Hello, this is Scarlett Williams. I need to cancel the booking for the 18th of next month. Yes, I understand the terms. The cancellation fee is fine. My voice was steady, not angry, not pleading. Just a resolve I hadn't realized I possessed. By the time I hung up the last call, the sky had dimmed. The soft glow of sunset brushed the lake in a dull orange hue. Strangely, I didn't feel as broken as I had imagined. Maybe the pain was still buried under layers of logic. Or maybe, deep down, I had always known this day would come. I just kept avoiding it. My phone buzzed again. Liam? Scarlett? I'm really worried about you. If you need time, I understand. But please don't go through this alone. Let me be there for you. I stared at the screen, heart heavy. Liam was a good man. Too good. But goodness alone wasn't enough to erase the scar I had carved into my own story. I flipped the phone face down, rested my head against the window frame and let the cold air wash over me. I knew I couldn't keep running forever. Madison had never been the type to stay quiet when things went wrong. Since the moment I left the apartment, she had sent me no fewer than 10 messages. First, they were light-hearted, almost joking. How are you, Queen? Don't be mad, last night was just for fun. But when I ignored her, the tone quickly turned sharp. Scarlett, stop being dramatic. Everyone has a wild night before getting married. I used to laugh off this kind of justification, but this time it stirred more contempt than anger. That afternoon I sent Madison a single text. Tomorrow, Maple Cafe, 10 a.m. If you don't show up, don't ever contact me again. No need for more words. The next morning I arrived at Maple earlier than planned. A small cafe tucked in an old neighborhood, so quiet you could hear the clinking of spoons against porcelain. A place completely foreign to Madison, who considered Starbucks too basic, and only deemed rooftop lounges as acceptable. So when Madison walked in, wearing an off-shoulder emerald dress and oversized sunglasses indoors despite the lack of sunlight, I knew she was uncomfortable. Exactly as I intended. Well, this place is quaint, she smirked, pulling out a chair across from me, crossing her legs like she was about to conduct an interview. I didn't waste time. Madison, I want to hear it from you. That night in Vegas, what exactly did you do? She scoffed. Scarlett, you're being way too serious. It was a bachelorette party. Nothing new. People call it one last night of freedom before tying the knot. I gripped my coffee cup tighter, keeping my voice from shaking. Calm last night for who, Madison? For me? Or for that empty void you keep trying to fill by being the center of every party? She faltered at that but quickly composed herself. Scarlett, if you want to play the victim, that's on you. But everyone knows bachelorette parties are meant for letting loose. You're just torturing yourself because you don't know how to let go. I pulled the USB from my pocket, the very thing that ignited this nightmare, and placed it on the table between us. This is what you call letting loose? Setting me up in a humiliating stunt, filming it like a trophy to brag about? This time, Madison couldn't fake a smile. Her face froze, fingers interlaced tightly, red painted nails digging into her pale skin. No one forced you, Scarlett. You got on that stage, you drank, you took those guys with you. Don't dump it all on me. I nodded slightly. You're right. I take responsibility for my choices. But do you know what I can't forgive? The way you turned my moment of weakness into your entertainment. You're not my friend, Madison. Worse, you enjoy watching people fall. She stayed silent for a few seconds, then forced a nervous smile. Scarlett, don't overthink it. The wedding can still happen. Liam loves you. Is this really worth ruining everything? That question, delivered so lightly, chilled me to the bone. I stood up, grabbed my coat, ready to leave. Do you know what's truly sad, Madison? That you think this is all just a game. But I don't live by your rules. Neither does Liam. She leaned forward, her tone more urgent. Scarlett, don't be stupid. You plan to tell everyone? You think they'll take your side? They love your perfect image, not this wild version of you. Madison abruptly stopped, realizing her slip. I met her eyes, no threats needed. Relax. I won't be the one telling the story. You made this mess. You'll deal with the fallout. The truth has a way of surfacing. I walked out of the cafe without looking back. No need to hear more meaningless excuses. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to sever this connection. Only when I stood on the sidewalk inhaling a long breath of cold air did I realize what Madison had done was merely a test. And I had passed it in my own way. I used to think silence was the most dignified response in situations like this. But the truth is, silence only allows others to rewrite the story however they please. I refused to be the lead character in Madison's distorted version. That evening, back from Maple, I sat at my desk and opened the USB once more, not to punish myself but to prepare for the only thing I knew I had to do. The shared contact list of Liam and me appeared on the screen. People who had been part of every milestone, from small gatherings to big events. Among them, familiar faces who once hailed Madison as the life of the party, though I knew well they had often shaken their heads behind her back. I didn't intend to broadcast this like some cheap revenge. I only selected those who deserved to know the truth, those who needed to see what really happened. I created a separate folder, attached the video and Madison's messages to me, including the one saying, "You were the queen last night. Don't be shy, it was a night to remember." No lengthy explanations, just a single line. I'm sharing this not to create more drama. I want everyone to see the truth before hearing Madison's version. The rest is for you to judge. I hit send. One by one, names disappeared from the list as the emails went out, each of them now holding the raw truth Madison had once proudly hidden. In less than an hour, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Olivia, a former colleague who used to consider Madison her ride or die, was the first to call. Scarlett, I don't even know what to say. I never thought Madison would do this to you. I figured it was just her usual antics. But filming it and sending it to you like a trophy? That's disgusting. I simply replied with a soft thank you. Messages from others followed. Ethan, I always knew Madison was a piece of work, but this is beyond. She'll have to face her own consequences now. Chloe, Scarlett, I know you're not someone who gets easily manipulated. Thank you for showing me the whole picture. Don't blame yourself. The cold silence from Madison at that moment was the sharpest answer of all. As the night wore on, rumors spread like wildfire. Even though I didn't reach out to anyone, bit by bit I could feel a circle closing in around Madison. I knew her world revolved around the gaze of the crowd. The parties, the flashy social media stories, the hollow compliments. But this time, the way people looked at her had changed. No longer Madison, the life of the party. Now Madison, the one who humiliated a friend on her own bachelorette night? Near midnight, the final message appeared from Lucas, Liam's best friend. Scarlett, I don't know if Liam knows everything yet, but I believe he should hear it from you, not from someone else. I'm on your side. I stared at that message, a wave of gratitude mixed with heaviness. I knew the biggest confrontation was still ahead. Taking a deep breath, I let the sound of rain tapping against the window drown out the rest of the noise in my head. I knew this conversation had to happen sooner or later. Liam's family had never liked me. They never said it outright, but the look in Mrs. Helen's eyes, his mother, was always enough to remind me that in their view, I didn't quite fit. A middle-class background, no prestigious family name, working in a creative field. None of these matched the image of a perfect daughter-in-law for their only son in such a traditional family. When we got engaged, Mr. Douglas, Liam's father, even bluntly said, "Scarlett, marriage is for life. Don't think love alone is enough." I had grown used to their judgment, but this time, the truth I was about to reveal would force them to see me in a completely different light. I texted Mrs. Helen first. "I believe we need to talk. About Liam, about me, and about the truth." Her reply was as brief as ever. This afternoon, 3 p.m., the old house. The wooden house nestled on a hill west of the city had always been their symbol of tradition and family values for 3 generations. I parked in front of the gate, took a deep breath, and rang the bell. Mrs. Helen opened the door. Her posture was perfectly straight, her expression as composed as usual. Mr. Douglas sat in the living room, flipping through a newspaper, though his eyes had already found me. "Scarlett." He nodded curtly. "I didn't waste time. I'm here to explain the real reason why this wedding can't happen." Miss Helen frowned slightly. "Liam mentioned you needed time, but this prolonged silence, is it really fair to him?" Without responding to her question, I took out my phone. "I want you both to see this first." The USB was plugged into the laptop. The video played, showing me during that bachelorette night, with all the worst parts of myself, gleefully recorded by Madison. No one spoke when the video ended. Mrs. Helen broke the silence first. "Scarlett, is this real?" I didn't flinch. "Yes, it's me, it's the truth, and it's the consequence of my own foolish choices." Mr. Douglas folded his newspaper, his gaze sharp as a blade. "I didn't think you were that kind of person." The words sounded like a defense but felt more like a knife twisting into me. Not because he was disappointed in me, but because I had embarrassed Liam. I clenched my fists, forcing my voice to stay steady. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness, not here to seek sympathy. I'm here because I don't want Liam hearing twisted versions of this from someone else. I want you, who've always prided yourselves on moral integrity, to know the truth before it's spun into another farce." Mrs. Helen sank into the chair, her hands trembling slightly. "We spent so much time doubting you, scrutinizing every little flaw, but what we never expected was you destroying your own image." Her voice was hoarse, unsure if it was from sadness or shame. I nodded. "I know." Mr. Douglas crossed his arms, eyes staring into the distance. "Does Liam know about this yet?" "Not yet." I exhaled, closing my eyes for a brief moment. "But he will know." From me. The living room sank into silence. "Scarlett, no matter what, this will be hard to accept." Mr. Douglas finally spoke, slow but not harsh. "But I respect you for facing it head on. The rest, let Liam decide for himself." Mrs. Helen said nothing more, but for the first time her gaze at me wasn't filled with silent contempt. Instead, there was a weariness, old and honest, far more real than any polite smile I'd ever seen from her. I stood up, giving a slight bow. "Thank you both for listening. Whatever the outcome, I won't run away anymore." As I stepped out of that house, the cold evening wind stung my face, yet I felt strangely lighter inside. For the first time, I no longer felt the need to prove my worth to anyone. The truth was on the table. How they judged it was their choice. Rumors didn't need my help to spread faster. Once the truth surfaced, it found its own way. Madison, with her knack for exaggerating everything to make herself the center of attention, found herself unable to control the very wave she used to ride. This time, she was the one being swept away. The bachelorette party video was no longer confined to our mutual friends. Small talks and gossip started seeping into Madison's professional circle. People who once hailed her as the queen of events in local media, the event company where Madison worked, once proud of its moral values and professional image, immediately held an emergency meeting. Though Madison tried to spin it as jealousy and sabotage, the leadership didn't need much convincing. They couldn't keep a PR head who had been exposed filming herself humiliating a friend, then turning it into a so-called souvenir. In less than 3 days, Madison was fired for severely damaging the company's image. Jobless and disgraced, Madison scrambled to find support, but this time even those who once called her their ride or die slowly turned away. The same friends who had raised glasses with her, whooped on every stage, now kept their distance, unwilling to be tainted by her scandal. Madison had always believed she wielded power in social circles. But in truth, all she held was a fragile facade with hollow foundations. Worse, when she thought she could rely on her family, her mother, who once boasted about her successful daughter, was the first to turn her back. Mrs. Evelyn, a calculating woman, couldn't bear the family name being tarnished by her daughter's cheap antics. In a single afternoon, Madison was thrown out of the luxury apartment under Evelyn's name. Her belongings were hastily shoved into a few suitcases dumped in the hallway like a ruthless declaration. "You've shamed the Parker name enough. When you learn self-respect, you can stand on your own," was the final cold remark from her mother, as Madison later recounted to Chloe, still trembling. Tasha? She was even worse. When Madison turned to her for help, Tasha simply shrugged. "Not your babysitter. You play, you pay. Don't drag me into this." With no home, no job, Madison ended up renting a shabby room in a low-end student housing complex in the southern outskirts. Far away from the glamorous party world she once ruled, far away from the empty praises she used to feed on. Work? She took morning shifts at a small cafe, mostly washing dishes and cleaning, earning minimum wage. People still recognized Madison, but no longer with admiration. Only side glances, whispers laced with cruel satisfaction. Old acquaintances, former colleagues, even the guys who used to flock around her at parties now avoided her. Some said Madison was never more real than she was now. I didn't feel triumphant. The most distinct feeling inside me was a cold emptiness. I once thought it would hurt to see Madison fall. But in the end, her downfall had nothing to do with me. It was her own doing. Each step, each action, each wrong choice. I never needed to lay a finger on her. My phone buzzed, a message from Chloe, short but meaningful. "Madison's tasting her own medicine. Scarlett, you don't need to do anything else. Now it's time to focus on yourself." I set my phone down, sitting quietly in my small room. The only place I could truly breathe right now. Madison had fallen from her self-proclaimed throne of life of the party, but the truth was, she was never really up there. She had lived in an illusion of her own making. Now, there was only one person left for me to face. Liam. I had been preparing for this moment for days, bracing for his disappointed gaze, for the silence that could crush my pride, and for questions I wasn't sure I wanted to answer. The message I sent Liam was brief. "I want to talk. No pretense, no running." He replied in 3 minutes. "Tonight. Same place." The same place meant the small book cafe where we used to meet when we first dated. A quiet spot, far from all the noise and pretenses. I arrived early, choosing a table by the window where soft yellow lights glowed against shelves of old books. Every minute felt like an hour. Liam walked in when the clock showed 10 minutes to 8. He wasn't wearing the shirt I used to love, and there was no soft smile like always. His eyes, when they met mine, were painfully familiar yet distant. He sat down, saying nothing. I was the one who broke the silence. "I should have told you the truth earlier, but I was a coward." Liam nodded slowly. "I know." I clenched my hands together, feeling my nails digging into my skin. "I betrayed your trust. There's no excuse, no justification. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I just wanted you to hear it from me, not from rumors." Liam leaned back, his eyes never leaving me. "I've seen the video, Scarlett." I froze. My breath caught in my throat. "Chloe sent it to me. She said you deserved to tell your own story, not let others do it for you." He sighed. That sound weighed heavier than any accusation. "Scarlett, do you know what hurt me the most? Not what you did at that party, but that you thought I couldn't face the truth with you." I bit my lip until it bled. "I was afraid of your eyes, afraid I'd see contempt in them." "I never despised you," Liam said quietly. "I'm disappointed, but I also know who Madison is, and how you got pulled into that toxic mess." I shook my head, tears stinging. "No, Liam. Don't blame anyone else. I stepped on that stage. I ruined everything with my own hands." Liam was silent for a long time. His gaze then was exactly like the first time we met, direct, unflinching. Scarlett, love isn't a checklist of mistakes. I won't deny what you did was wrong, but you faced it. You took responsibility. That's worth more than 1,000 empty apologies. I paused, stunned. I'm not asking you to stay, I whispered. I just want you to know I'm not someone who runs away after everything. Liam nodded. And I'm not someone who turns his back when you're fighting with yourself. I looked up, meeting his eyes. This time there was no cold disappointment, only a complex emotion. Heavy, but with a fragile thread of trust. We won't go back to what we were, he said, but maybe we can start again, with this raw truth between two grown-ups. My heart clenched, not sure if from pain or a quiet gratitude. Are you sure? I'm not the perfect girl your mother wanted. I'm no longer the bride in the pristine white dress you once imagined. Liam gave a faint but warm smile. I never needed perfect. I needed a Scarlett who knows who she is. I wanted to say something, but my throat tightened. Instead, I simply placed my hand over his on the table. For the first time after all those endless days, that familiar warmth returned. We sat there in silence, amidst the old bookshelves with a new chapter waiting to be written. This time, without lies, without hollow glitz. Just the truth, and two people daring to step out from behind their masks. 3 months after that meeting, I moved into a small apartment on the northern edge of the city. Not to run away, not for some cliché new life. I simply needed a quiet space to breathe. Far enough from meaningless noise, close enough to remind myself that the past can't be erased, but can be lived with. Madison vanished from social circles faster than I expected. After her fall, people stopped mentioning her as a leader, as if her past glow had never existed. I no longer cared. Not out of nobility, but because I refused to waste another second on things that no longer mattered. As for Liam, we still saw each other, but no longer in forced attempts to make up for old wounds. We slowed down, became more honest. Sometimes we said nothing at all. But that silence brought more peace than any words could. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to prove I was worthy. I accepted a collaboration with a small magazine, writing a column about the truth beneath the glamour, a topic I had paid dearly to understand. Not flashy, not spotlight-seeking, but each article felt like a step out of my own shadow. One autumn afternoon, while sorting through old boxes, I found the plastic tiara from that night. It lay buried among random items, no longer sparkling, just a bitter reminder of an expensive lesson. I didn't throw it away, nor did I keep it as a token of self-punishment. I simply smiled, so faint I barely noticed it myself. Maybe growing up is just that, staring at your mistakes, smiling because you faced them, then moving forward without needing to prove anything to anyone. Scarlett's story isn't just about a stumble from naivety and toxic friendships. It's about the courage to face herself, take responsibility, and rise from the wreckage. In real life, we all make mistakes. We all wear masks to please others. But true maturity isn't about avoidance or escape. It's about having the courage to face the consequences, letting go of what's fake, and living truthfully with ourselves. What do you think about Scarlett's story and the choices she faced? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more meaningful stories about life, family, and valuable lessons.